Here we are again. I want to talk about a couple of things today. One is the iceberg mentality, and one is the life landscape, which are two ideas that relate to how we look at life and how we use consciousness to understand life, which is ultimately something that we're all trying to do. Whether you're actively thinking about life and what it means or what you're trying to do with your life, or if you're engaged with, as most people are, a range of activities that are trying to create or express or find meaning in your life, which I think most activities in life are some form of trying to understand the world or yourself, or the interplay between yourself and the world, which kind of sums up what life is in a simple way. Everyone is looking at life and everyone is engaging with life to some extent. And a lot of people are talking about the way we look at life online, especially in self-development or healing or coaching or anything that's to do with leveling up or resolving the blockages that we have in terms of how we engage with the world or with life. And I think healing and coaching and counseling and even study and training are all just different versions of the same thing, which is trying to enhance the way that we engage with the world to make it as good for us and as good for the world as possible. And depending on the way you approach it, obviously there's different balances of how good it is for you and how important it is for your life journey and your experience of life and your expression of life, and how good it is for the people around you, or how good it is for society or the world or the environment. There's all different combinations of the benefits that you can find or create in bettering and enhancing yourself. But so a lot of people are talking about the way you see the world being the way that you create your world, and how effective it can be to change the way you interpret the world so that your sense of world and your sense of possibility and potential and confidence and empowerment in the world can grow. And so I think ultimately anyone who's talking about that is contributing some value. Though I do think often people want to impress people with a certain sense of the world, or get people to buy into their way of processing it, because then that benefits their project, which is fine. Everyone is trying to better their situation, and ideally bettering the collective situation at the same time. But so what I'm calling iceberg mentality is that obviously what you can see day to day, what you're able to perceive, is not everything. It's not the whole. It's a fraction of the whole information that you're able to receive through your senses, generally speaking. And what you're even able to receive through your senses is a fraction of the whole universe. Tiny fraction of what is possible to see and experience in the universe, or even in the world and on the planet. And obviously we need to have a refined or reduced image of the world in order to understand it and engage with it and be able to do anything in the world. But often the way that is refined is not refined for our benefit or for our best form of engagement with the world. And that comes through, family life and your parents' blockages and limitations, and your education and the environment that you're in. And they all become a chain effect of building up your limitations and boundaries and perspective. And so grasping that and making it into something that is filtering information for your greatest purpose, or for your greatest benefit at least, is ideal. But I think often what happens is that you see the image and then you make the image that you're getting from your perception of the world, the information, the perceptual information. And then you add a whole bunch of assumptions to that. As if, you know, what you're seeing is the tip of the iceberg. And then what you're not seeing, that you assume is there, I think is what makes all the difference. So you know that you're only seeing a snippet of what is happening. But then everything that you assume is what pulls your momentum in a different direction. And so, as much as possible, we want to reduce that assumption, because that assumption is what is limiting the potential of what we're able to perceive and in what we interpret, and then what we're able to do with that information. Because ultimately the whole point of interpreting information is to use it as fuel for your action in the world. But the assumption, the layer of assumptions that we put onto what it is that we perceive, is not the whole either. That's still a very limited part of our image of the world. So depending on the way you produce those assumptions, they could lead you to making a very effective response to the situation, or making a very avoidant and limited response to a situation. And I like to think of it like a screen. So everything that you're seeing is on a screen. And the thing that's viewing that screen is what's important. What's viewing that screen is your consciousness. But you need to be aware of the fact that you're just viewing a screen, and not take the screen for the reality or the whole. And not take that lens or that view or that perspective as the whole, as your capacity for perception or information. Because the consciousness that is viewing that screen has access to a huge range of information, but it's not trained in receiving that information. So it's easy to assume that what makes the most obvious and brightest and most cohesive image is the reality. But so what we're doing with meditation is we're trying to loosen up the relationship between the image and the meaning, or the image and the perception or the consciousness, so that we can open up potential for more information, for a deeper and wider perspective, and then ultimately for more potential and possibility in our responses to what happens. And then I think what is possible is that you can create assumptions that create a different iceberg, the same tip, but a different iceberg hiding underneath. So you see something happen, and for example, you can assume that what's hiding behind that perception or that situation or event is an amazing magical potential about to come to fruition. Even if what's happening to you might feel painful or uncomfortable. You might have a day where you feel totally lacking motivation, or unable to even get out of bed. And that's the tip of the iceberg. That's what you can experience. That's what you can perceive of your situation. And then you can create an image where what is beneath the surface is a whole lot of new opportunities waiting to happen. You're about to achieve a new level of motivation or possibility, and you're just brewing for a day, for example. But so the practice is about detaching from the screen and always bringing your awareness back to the fact that you're viewing the screen. And that opens up more space for you to be able to perceive things that are not coming through that channel. Now, I also want to talk about what I call a life landscape, because it's kind of a key concept in what I'm doing and the way that I'm trying to get people to engage with meditation and awareness and consciousness, and ultimately engage with life, because I think that is what's important. But simply put, the landscape is just everything that you see in your life. It's everything that you engage with and have ever engaged with. So in a sense, it's everything that makes up the screen that you're looking at. But even in daily life, we tend not to see the whole screen or the whole landscape. We tend to be so absorbed in the events that happen and the relationships and the dynamics and the politics, that we aren't really aware of the way that we're looking at life, or even the view that is available to us. When you're watching a movie, you don't tend to get bogged down by things that happen, even if they're dark or scary. They're taken as entertainment, and they're taken, it's a form of art that you engage with and that you enjoy, even when it's a bit dark or uncomfortable or painful. And I think perception should be taken the same way. You shouldn't take it personally, but at the same time, it's important to be aware that the landscape that you are privy to is only visible to you, and that the whole arrangement of everything that you see, the sequence you see things in, the arrangement of literally the physical objects in your life is unique to you, because you're the only person who can possibly see it in that arrangement and in that perspective. And that sounds kind of boring when you say it, but when you engage with it and you actually bring your awareness to just what it looks like, what your life looks like, it completely shifts your perspective on everything that you do in your life. It becomes an artwork. It becomes something to wonder at and to find beauty and meaning in, and not something to find attachment in or find stress or suffering. And it doesn't mean being nihilistic and detaching from it to the point where you don't care whatever happens, or you don't care what your effect on people is because it's not real or whatever. It's just looking. And in the just looking comes a sense of peace and understanding, and even pleasure. I would go so far as to say pleasure, because it's stepping out of the processes that you usually engage with, that you usually perpetuate, that produce attachment and suffering. And why it's important to be able to see the landscape and understand it, and understand how it relates to who you are, how it shares the structure with who you are and what your purpose is and what your disposition is, what your talents are, is that then you can use the way that your life landscape is laid out as a tool to enhance the things that are important to you and that are most important for you to offer to the world. It's full of clues about where you should be and what you should be focusing on. But when you stay stuck in your patterns and in your attachments. You know, if you're stuck in trying to manage what these relationships mean, or, you know, if you're stuck in the image and not looking at the image, then it's really hard to get the perspective to be able to use the parts of your life effectively. It's not even about changing the landscape or the image. It's just about changing the perspective. It's about returning to the core point of perspective so that you can actually see the whole view of your life. To be able to use the parts in unison, like a well-oiled machine that works for your expression, your fulfillment, your progress and success. And so I'm opening up a one-on-one membership, which is monthly sessions to work together on your life landscape and understand your own perspective. Just techniques and tools for locating that center point of your perspective and engaging with what it is you see in a way that brings you purpose and empowerment in every situation that you come up in. Ultimately, it's the way that you view life that decides whether you're going to take empowered action or disempowered action. And there's never any benefit in taking disempowered action. Disempowered action is action that hands your power and your energy and your potential over to a purpose that is not going to benefit you and not enhance your life. So we want the image and the perspective and the assumptions and the boundaries that we have in the dynamics that make up our whole life to be part of a mechanism that automatically produces the life that we want and the relationships that we want, the opportunities that we want, the skills that we want, the ways that we want our talents to be able to become visible in the world, which ultimately I think is the most important thing you can focus on in your life. Because whatever it is you're trying to do, it's going to be the way you leverage your life that makes it possible or impossible, successful or unsuccessful. And the more you put potential outside of you and put success far away from you and stay stuck in these petty political microdynamics, nothing that you really do in your life is going to be yours. It's always going to be subordinate to a mechanism or a direction that has been pushed on you from the outside. So I'm going to be talking about this more on my Instagram and in the live sessions that we've got. So you know where to find me. If you want to follow the Instagram, that's probably where you find the most information, and you can DM me. And you can see the other things that we're bringing out on the Whirlpool page as well. And I look forward to seeing you. Look forward to talking to you.